Welcome to Heart, Cat and Soul, a podcast designed to unravel the mysteries of the feline world on a physical, emotional, and energetic level. You are more than capable of connecting with your cat, but the hassle and bustle of life and the noise in our minds don't always let us truly listen. My name is Amaya Spindola, and I invite you to join me on this journey created for you to unlock the full potential of your relationship with your cat. And welcome back. Here we are again. This is the last episode of the year. I think it's going to be out between Christmas and New Year's Eve. Not really sure. I haven't checked the calendar, to be honest. But anyway, I'm going to take a break, maybe for a month, to, think about what topics, what everything I should be talking to you guys. And if you want something, you only have to leave a comment below. There is an option for commenting, or you can send me a message anywhere. I'm doing this for you guys. So in the end, if you want me to talk about a certain topic, just ask. That's all you have to do. Anyway, last episode, we talked about why it's important to feed meat to our cats. And sometimes, the questions that I often get led me to this episode. Probably this one is going to be shorter than the other one. I don't know, because in the end, I talk a lot. But we're going to talk about this overthinking our cat's diet and how that can be, that can backfire. We say that feeding our cats should be simple and a rewarding experience. Yeah, right. For many of us, it can be a source of stress, and most of my this is for most of my clients. Usually, they call me, "Yes, my cat needs to change. I need to transition the food, but I can't. But it's difficult. He's picky, and this and that." And the reason that I have this 360 consultation, and I do not take only nutrition consultations or only behavior consultations, is that the things are all together. You cannot address a nutritional problem, especially a transitioning issue, if you don't address behavior, because they're very tied together. If you're trying to address a behavioral issue, but we don't deal with nutrition, then we're going to be halfway. Because yes, there are things to do, but you're going to be doing halfway. So, and let me tell you that if you have a health issue, then you need to address everything. Because, when you feel unwell, your emotions, are often somewhere else and in negative thought, right? And then you don't want to change diet because what for, right? That's kind of the feeling when you're not feeling well. Everything is like, why should I do this? And usually I wish I would have clients that prevent all this from happening, that, they do preventative medicine and they went, just before it happens, what should I do to avoid this and that? That would be perfect. But the reality is that I get most of the clients as a second opinion vet after, or the last resource, where, they've tried many things and I have to get creative. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. But this is the reason why I only have the 360 consultation, because it's important for you to understand that it is all tied up together. And then I do have some, behavioral consultations or nutrition consultations, usually to prevent things, such as I'm introducing a cat in my home, or I adopted a new cat and I want to give them another food, or, there are things for healthy cats that can be separated. But usually the best way to tackle all this is to look at it from 360 degrees perspective. So let's look at some of the things that we overthink when we think about our cat's diet. I mentioned this before, but there is an emotional side of feeding. I explained on the previous episode that if you haven't heard it, I encourage you to do it. But now I'm going to talk about the parent perspective. So let's start with a common scenario. You've just bought a premium food for your cat and they sniff it, turn their nose up, and walk away. Frustrating, right? Your mind floods with thoughts like, what a waste of money. They're going to get sick if they don't eat. Then worries come up. Then all the fears, all the worries, or everything. We became this preoccupied mind, and we started thinking about what could happen in the future. And the problem with this is that those fears are valid. They have this valid point, but they're often exaggerated. And here's the thing. Cats are incredibly sensitive to our emotions. If you're anxious about mealtime, they'll pick up on it. And sometimes it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm really anxious, I'm so nervous. Sometimes when we like to control things too much, this is an anxiety way to feed your cat, an anxious way to feed your cat. You see what I mean? If you want to control, they have to have like 5 meals, like this time and that time. You're not relaxing. It should be, as I said before, a rewarding experience for all of us. If this is not happening, I encourage you to look into this. Okay? To give you an example, one of the things I've tried to transition my cats to different foods, and even I keep doing this when I introduce new brands or new proteins to keep it varied. What I do is that I sometimes sing to them, like, it's turkey time, let's go with the turkey. And I just start dancing and playing around just to make it, more exciting. Well, usually turkey is not an issue, but with some other meats you can get that. So what I do is I try to relax, I try to make it a funny thing, and sometimes I even run with the plates to encourage them to run just because, and or play with them before. So if you do any of those things, just keep it relaxed. It's very important for them. It's a very vulnerable time for them, so they will pick up on your stress. And if they associate feeding time with your stress and add their stress, their normal stress of safety or insecurities they have, it's going to be less likely that they eat whatever you're feeding. It doesn't matter what, unless it's something very addictive. So to break that vicious cycle, you need to relax. And if you haven't heard the previous episode, I talked about addiction and those addictive foods and the safety when you have multi-cat households, because the dynamics that you have in those houses that also can affect that your cat becomes picky or selective in their food. Okay, and the addiction is a way for them to feel better. So what are they escaping from? What do you need to address in their behavior to avoid that addictive behavior? Especially, well, if you're feeding ultra-processed foods, it's difficult to find the cause. But if you're struggling to change, you need to see and observe and look at them with a big, like you need to look at them in the whole, like everything they do, how they interact with you, with other cats, with other pets if you have it, how they find their home, do they feel comfortable going through the hallway, how, everything. Observe and you'll get your answers. And if you don't, of course, you can always ask me. Okay. So if we look at this and this addiction and emotional eating and all of this, we need to talk about that idea of that cats are neophobic. It's something that I really don't like, because I don't really believe that. If cats are known to adapt to newer environments easier than a dog, for example, it makes no sense that they are neophobic, because that will mean that they are paralyzed or freeze or fight or any of those reactions because of that neophobic behavior. So cats are not exactly picky or selective by nature. They are, on the other hand, a little bit cautious. They like to take their time. They like, it's a vulnerable moment. They need to feel safe on things, whatever is going on, the dynamics that I mentioned before. So they are cautious. But that doesn't mean that they don't like change. And I've seen this many, many times. I used to work in Madrid with in a cat cafe. And I remember every time that we switched everything around, and cats were excited that things were changing. The problem is when they live in a home that nothing changes, and we even move around the house in automatic pilot, that becomes a routine. And when something becomes a routine, if the cat finds that routine safe, they won't they will expect that certain consistency. And a change would be stressful. You know what I'm seeing? You know what I'm cooking here? So instead of tagging a cat as a neophobic animal, think about how interactive or unexpected things would happen in your home. Try to be less automatic and more present, and you'll be surprised on how much your cat can adapt. I have a fearful cat that used to be aggressive, and he's very afraid of everything. But I'm always amazed by his capacity to adapt. He even traveled by plane, and he was amazing. I think he was better than me because I was worried about him. And this is what I mean. Let's stop tagging them and just observe them and give them the options and look at ourselves. They are interacting with us. If they have the same consistency every day, and if you add that an ultra processed food, then of course, you can tag them whatever you want. But if you awaken the cat's instincts, if you awaken those instincts, your cat is more adaptable than you think. Okay? If you want to learn more about this, I suggest you check my course in Judy Morgan's platform about transitioning cats to a different food. I didn't say raw because it works for any type of food. I would suggest that you feed them raw, but anyway, that's up to you guys. I'm just here to give you information so you can make informed choices. Another thing that I want to talk about is the fasting. There is a lot of talks about how dogs can fast, and how good intermittent fasting is good for humans as well. But somehow cats are left aside. And again, why is this? Because there is a big thing with the fatty liver and the hepatic lipidosis, that if a cat doesn't eat for more than 36 or 48 hours or even more, this could happen, and it's life-threatening. We know this, okay? Yes, and this is true. I have nothing to say about this. But the reason why this happens, it's because they are on a processed diet. If a cat gets more carbohydrates than they actually need and they store them into fat, then that fat, when it's needed because of that period of fasting that they have, the liver will like just simply go crazy and then don't understand what to do. And this is what uh, prones to or gives the fatty liver, right? It the fat starts mobilizing, and then it gets stuck in between the liver cells. But if you have a cat that is it's being fed a biologically appropriate food for a while. I mean, if you just transition them, I would not still do it. You need a period for them to be cleansed of all the processed foods and the excessive inflammation that they had during that time they ate this kind of food. But if you give them, let's say, a few months or more, and they start eating well the new food and they are already into the natural food, then fasting is a possibility and actually very healthy for them. Of course, if your cat has other emotional issues related to food, then it's another problem. If you cannot sleep because you're trying to fast your cat, then that is not working, because fasting has to be a relaxed thing. It should not be done if you have an environment that is stressful, and or if you have any emotions that may be tied to the lack of food. For example, if that cat was not fed properly when growing up, then fasting may not be a good thing. But it's not about the liver anymore. We're talking about other things. Okay? And again, this is why I can't separate nutrition from behavior. It's all very tied up together. So I think those are kind of all the myths that I wanted to talk about today, just before New Year's. I will give you some practical tips for feeding success and to not panic. Though formulation, it's good for certain patients, and especially if they have health issues. For me, it's much simpler than that. If you're using natural foods, there's a concern about complete imbalance, but if you dig deeper into how this complete imbalance idea came from, you will see that there is no, it's kind of not enough to be simple in this. And then when they formulate something in an ultra processed food, and then they actually made some, there are some people and researchers that checked how complete and balanced this food were. Loads of them didn't pass the test. So that thing of, oh no, if you feed a natural diet, you're not going to be a complete food. That's not entirely true. Actually, you have more opportunities to make it right if you give variety, if you rotate, if you give them choices. You're going to get it right for sure. It's not difficult. I think the most difficult part is transitioning. Then for a cat, it's pretty simple. And then I would recommend that you read about it, because there are loads of myths about, for example, I still hear about fish or milk or I can't remember now, or a lot of liver. So there is a percentage of things that you should feed to your cat, or about bones or whatever, many other things. I would recommend that you read a little bit, that you inform yourself before choosing this kind of diet. Because, of course, then if even when you choose and you pick up any commercial natural brand or natural food brand or raw food brand, you are going to be more informed about it, or what is best, or why should I take care of this or that, or why my cat prefers this one from over that one. Any of those things, if you are a little bit informed, then you're going to make a better choice. And in order to do that, I have a beautiful guide that you can download from my website, that it's about nutrition. And it gives you kind of these tips that you need to know. Okay? Yeah, I'm that nice. um, but then other practical tips that you need, for example, observe their preferences. One of the things that I learned from pharmacognosy, if you don't know what that is, it's self-selection, is the ability that animals have to self-medicate. I'll talk about that in another episode, but you can look for the word and you will find a lot of information. You will see that they have their own behavior. They know what to select whenever they need it. So when they are rejecting a food after you transition, for example, because during that period, it's a tricky time. But after you transition, if, for example, you're trying to feed a certain protein and the cat is rejecting it, but he's eating other kind of protein, then observe why this would happen. Is the fat content is because of it's a very warm meat and it's the middle of the summer. There can be many things, so observe and respect their preferences, but that doesn't mean that if they don't like it once, they never like it again. Okay, just be flexible, be dynamic. That's the way we need to find food something like more exciting to do for you, for everybody. Okay, this is not just for your cat. I know we do much more efforts for our cats than we do for ourselves, but anyway, this is a recommendation. Then do not panic if they skip a meal and they are, they're in a natural food and they're not feeling, there's no addictive substance around. It's not the end of the world. They may not be hungry at that time, or maybe it's too warm outside. It's the middle of the summer. So, observe. And as I recommend, because not always we can trust on our brains, what I would suggest is that you write it down. If you have a calendar of things that are happening to your cat, it's much easier to understand all these things. So, if you're feeling overwhelmed with all this, let me tell you, you are not alone. We were all at the same point. Even me as a vet, I had to learn this because this is not something you get in school. You need to learn this, and I had to make that transition with my cats, and I helped many cats to get this. So you're not alone, and I'm happy to help you if that's what you need. I have consultations. If it's a healthy cat, you can have a nutrition consultation. You can download my free guide. You can, if you have an unhealthy cat, you can get the 360 consultation that you will get loads of information. Imagine that I prepare your consultation before, because I do individualized medicine. Then I speak to you and then you get a report. It's not just the hour we talk about. It's a lot more. And together we can create this feeding plan that works for you and your cat, and it's not overwhelming. So you can get that joy again, the joy back of feeding your cat. And as I said before, this is the best investment you can do. Instead of trying to buy loads of things for them, start with the food. Okay? And it's a good also practice for managing our own fears and understanding their needs, and have a more positive, stress-free feeding environment. With all of this, I say goodbye until next time, next year. I hope you have a really good start of the year. And if you like what you hear, just share with your friends. Don't keep it all to yourself. Okay, bye-bye.